Lietnhom is almost an obscure village in the middle of South Sudan. When you go there, you'll find that the everyday person lives in a mud hut. It almost seems like it's a place that's unchanged since the times of Christ. It's a very simple, very wonderful lifestyle that when you've experienced it, it makes you almost envious. You miss air conditioning when you go there, but you discover that the people on the ground there are full of joy. My first year in Lietnhom was in 2006. I came there with a handful of people from Fellowship Bible Church, and I was contributing to the PLTI, Pastoral Leadership Training Institute. And our job was to help teach a group of about 40-some pastors to help equip them in terms of their church leadership. And I still remember that first trip. We were meeting underneath a big tree, and we would be teaching, and I'd ask a question of the group of pastors to see who was tracking with me. And when I asked a question, a hand shot up in the front row, and it was this little kid. And I don't even think he belonged there because he was like 12 years old. No one else raised their hand, so I pointed to the kid in the front row, and I said, "What's the answer to the question?" And he stated the answer, and he got it exactly. It became clear pretty quickly that this kid in the front row was the smartest guy in the room, and he wasn't even invited to PLTI. I saw on his name badge, his name was Angelo, and as I got to know a bit more about him, he's an orphan. He and his 4 siblings were having their needs met by the goodwill of people because there's no orphanages in this part of the world. But Angelo had snuck into PLTI that day because there was nothing else going on in the village, I think. And it became pretty clear that he was just really sharp. God had given this kid a really great brain. And I remember our team, after 3 or 4 encounters with Angelo after the years, we decided to send him away to high school to get him a good education. So we sent him off because there was no high school available in Lietnhom at that time. He came back 4 years later and just sharp as a tack. And he's serving in the community. He's given back with that which he's been given, which is a high school education. As I'd continue to go back to Lietnhom, I remember when the process started, Angelo would say, "Hey, Mr. Mike, can I meet with you tonight at the fire?" So we'd meet that night and we'd talk, and he'd say, "Mr. Mike, I feel like God's telling me to become a doctor." And I'm like, "Wow, that's impressive. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'll pray for you. Like, that's a really big dream. I think that's awesome. I'll pray that God sees your dream fulfilled." Not knowing, of course, how this is going to happen. Where this gets interesting is when I came back the next year. And we get off the airplane and we're greeting the community and I'm starting to launch what we're doing on that particular trip. And I see Angelo and he says, "Mr. Mike, I've decided to not become a doctor." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, God has not made a way." And I don't remember what it was that hit me, but when he said, "I've decided to no longer become a doctor," I could feel something hurt in here because I felt like he was giving up on his dream. And I gave him a homework assignment. I said, "I want you to get together with 1 or 2 of the pastors who have access to the internet because they've got computers. I want you to ask them to do a search for you and figure out who could accept you and what the cost would be, and let's start the conversation." And so we got a letter of acceptance from Kenya Methodist University, welcoming him to the program to do a 6-year program studying a Bachelor's of Medicine and Surgery. I couldn't believe it. God fulfilled his dream. And so we've been able to send Angelo to Kenya Methodist University. 1 year from this month, he graduates and will be Lietnhom's first ever doctor.
I am Angelo, being the person you've been supporting all along. I'm here to say thank you so much for the work you've been doing to us and the people of Lietnhom and all the people of South Sudan. We are really grateful. Personally, I am so happy and grateful, and I want to promise you that the work that you've been giving me, the gift you've given me, I'm going just to give it to my community the way it came. Thank you so much. God bless you, and keep partnering with us.
What's interesting is that when Angelo comes back to Lietnhom as the first ever doctor, we were envisioning a medical clinic, like an urgent care of some sort for Angelo. And there was a couple of small, simple structures that we were going to use so that Angelo could see 1 or 2 patients at a time. But the story keeps building. One of the board members for James Bach's organization had said, "Have you ever heard of an organization called Project Cure?" And I said, "No, I've never heard of these guys." And they said, Project Cure is the world's largest donator of medical supplies. They're kind of the overstock.com of medical supplies and equipment and so forth. And if you put in an application to Project Cure, you might be able to receive a gift of a cargo container full of medical supplies to come to Lietnhom. We put in our application, we were approved, and Lietnhom is being sent a full 40-foot long cargo container filled with medical equipment and supplies. So what was once going to be a little small urgent care is now going to be a small hospital that's going to service 40,000 people in the region. It'll be the nearest medical clinic for 150 kilometers, about 100 miles. We've discovered in our understanding of the needs of this region that complications resulting from pregnancy and from childbirth are literally the #1 cause of death among women in this part of the world. Achiek is a Dinka word which means Creator God, and we've decided to name this the Creator God Women's Clinic. So this clinic that we're building is intended to help the most vulnerable in this society. It's intended to give honor to the women that have suffered, and we look forward to bringing the answered needs for the medical deficiencies in this part of the world. Would you consider partnering with us financially in this incredible story that God is telling in South Sudan? We are striving to bring medical expertise to a region of the world that has literally never had it before. We are raising funds at this time to cover the operational costs of the Achiek Women's Clinic. We're needing to raise funds to pay for our doctors, to replenish medicines and supplies as they are used. And also, we would love to see the provision of an ambulance of sorts so that we can pick up people from the community and bring them to the clinic when they're unable to get there on their own steam. Donations are fully tax deductible and they can be given to the website that appears at the bottom of your screen. We thank you for your partnership. May God bless it.